Hi, welcome along to John's Guide to Teams, a fairly hit and miss as to what I found and what I've not found, but I just thought if we didn't start somewhere, um, then we wouldn't be able to move forward in terms of what things Teams can do. So if you've found something really useful in Teams that I don't mention, and it appears I don't know about, feel free to let me know. I think I'll go fairly fast. I don't think I'll be able to kind of make this full training, but it might at least allow you to ask better questions about what might be possible. So I've started here. I clicked on Teams on the left here. If I come out of there, go back on there. Sometimes you need to click it more than once, and those are the teams that I'm members of. It's looking a bit more populated now because we've got next year's teams as well as this year's teams. Bit of a health warning before we go any further. You can see top left, we've got the physics A level team. I was quite excited to see that. In fact, the only members of that team are teachers. And if you put something in there from Teams, students can't see it. Now, it exists because it is going to be an important structure within SharePoint, but students will need to go in not through the Teams interface to find things in A level physics. So I'll wait a little bit of time there so there's a bit of a warning. These two lower groups are the kind of main teams that I have an interest in at the moment because we're still working with those students for another couple of days. So let's just go on Group A and have a look at what's inside. So teams have another substructure within them that you might not have come across, and that those structures are called channels. And each channel is a cooperation space, and by default, what you've probably been looking at is the general channel. And all these things up here, files, class notebooks, assignments, refer to the general channel. And you can see this group have been let loose, and I'll show you how you do that in a moment. And they've created some more channels here. Um, and they've used those as cooperation spaces on a little group project we did. But there's all kinds of ways you could use this. You could be a stretch and challenge. It could be a group of students who have a particular set of needs, and you can interact with that group of students simply via these individual channels. So if you want to do something with channels, you're going to need to manage the team, and you need to go into settings and um, member permissions. You're going to need to make sure you read and think about these. You presumably want students to be able to make channels, but I think you don't want to be able to hide them and stuff like that. So go back from there. So go back into A, sorry. Um, there are some quite useful little features here. The files thing here, you can put materials here that they can find. You can share resources between students. And there is a means of collecting work here or allowing students to accumulate work um, within these folders. Notebooks, I don't know whether they're set up for this channel yet or not. Okay, looks like I've started that process. But each student can have, if you look at the things here, a student notebook. I think we won't be doing things on paper next year, so I'm wondering whether I want to give students a notebook area here, and that's where they build up their knowledge. Um, there are collaboration spaces they can all edit together, and then there are places that you can put stuff and then they can't edit. Has the big advantage over just a kind of list of files. It can be a bit more visual. In fact, let me just show you my OneNote notebook. So what you're looking at now, this isn't actually in Teams, although it could be. This is my scheme of work. It's laid out as a table, and you can see there's a couple of things that hopefully grab you. You can have images in it, you can have links in it, but most crucially, you can embed files in it. So within our scheme of work, or in terms of directing students, those, rather than these just being lost in a folder and no one really knowing where gas laws problems goes, you can see it relates to this specific area of the curriculum that I've put a screenshot of in. And it's got tabs along the top, and then you've got pages within, and all that will be possible within a notebook within Teams. It will look slightly different because it's the web interface, although you can pop it out and have it in OneNote if you like. So other features that you might want to look at are assignments. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on one of my groups for next year. Okay, so let's get started. And you need to click on create, and you can create a quiz. That will be in Microsoft Forms, When we look at apps, you'll see those there. Or you can just click on assignment. You can assign it to other groups by clicking here. You can select who's going to get the assignment. If there are other groups that you want to set assignments to, you might need to make sure that you're a teacher for that group. So Rick and I have set things up now. So I'm added as a teacher on his group and vice versa, so we can set work to each other's groups, obviously saving work there. Instructions fairly obvious. Add resources, you can attach PowerPoints and documents, or you can put in links here. You can set a due date. Then when you click the assign button, it goes out to students, and then when you check back in later, you can see their responses, and there's a place for commenting. Calls I've used far more than I thought. You can see other people I've been chatting to, do a lot of chats with Rick, just working out what we're going to be doing in physics together. Kind of slightly better than being on the phone, which we do as well, because you can share documents, and that's helpful. Files, I haven't made so much use of that. That's just a kind of list of all the things you've looked at recently, so it could be used for picking up where you were. Chat function, now each one of those chats is associated with a different team or a different meeting. And I'm thinking that I might make more use of that next year, because I might ask students to ask me questions rather than by email, but to ask me on here, so that then other students can see the answers, and I haven't got to kind of duplicate the work. This is the chat from a meeting that I was in, and if you want to refer to somebody, it's that kind of @. So if I wanted to refer to Richard Lowry, okay, Rick wasn't at that meeting, so let's do Stuart Strange or Tweedale. So you just start typing their name, you click on them, and then that will mean that you know that you're addressing them within a chat. Activity, I don't find that so useful. You can see that the assignments I've set are picking up. Clicking up here, you can see Cloudbox design, creating the new groups. You can have a look at some of the chats that I've been looking at. They seem sort of slightly less useful. Down here, we've got some of the other apps that are associated with it. I find it easier to interact with these. So rather than clicking on here to create a notebook, I'd when you're in a place in Teams when you can use that, there'll be a button for it. Same with forms. If you want to use forms in an assignment, just click on quiz when you're setting an assignment. That seems an easier way of doing things. Hi, just going to have a quick look at calendar and how we might go about setting up a meeting. Personally, I don't find the calendar that easy to use here. I'm not quite sure whether I'm missing something obvious. So I've tended to set up meetings from here and just click new Teams meeting there. And the people you invite will get an email, and it'll also show up in Teams for them. So going back to Teams, I'm just going to start Meet now. Obviously, I won't actually be meeting anybody, but oh, there you go. It's always terrifying when your face leaps into view. Hopefully that's not been too frightening for you. Just a few things that you should know about. One is screen sharing. So if you just click on, these are the files without an icon are things that you've opened recently. These are actually open documents. So if I was going to share with a student, I'd probably want the PowerPoint open initially and then click on there. I'm not actually going to do it because if you can imagine, I'm already recording in PowerPoint. I think the level of potential confusion for my brain is more than I can deal with. So let's just click out of there. Some useful bits and pieces are here, like there's background effects. So you don't want them students to see exactly the environment you're in. You can have a nice blurry background, a kind of, or you can pretend to be somewhere else using any of these. I'm quite interested to know what that one is now. Okay, so it looks like I'm in a locker room. I don't know whether that's a good thing or not. You can decide in your own time, but there is some options there. So we'll come out of there. One of the things I found quite useful, which I will attempt to demonstrate now, is I have found that the whiteboard feature doesn't work particularly well. So what I'm going to do is share with you a blank Word document. Okay, now actually that's almost too good to be true. That's me teaching something fearsomely technical early on, and yeah, I've got a little graphics pad and I can write in there, and I found that really useful within a Teams meeting. I think we're going to come out of that meeting there. I think we've done what we can with that. Just to say that you can record a meeting, so if you're explaining something useful and you want students to find it later, um, then that can be handy. And I think if we go into activity, no, go into chats, you can see there, actually, there's the little icon. That's what I was explaining, how that you measure distance to stars. So that's there for anyone who wasn't at that meeting. Right, I think we'll leave it there.